We're 2/3 into winter and I'm starting to see some casualties out here in the garden. And in today's video, we're going to look at all of the plants that so far have not made it through winter. Hey everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Last month I filmed a video on my garden and how it's coping with Sydney's winter. In that video most of my plants were still alive, but they started to show some cold damage. 1 month later and continuous single-digit nights have caused a few casualties. So over the last 2 to 3 weeks, every night it's going down to about 6 to 7 degrees Celsius. Daytimes can still be really nice, especially when the sun hits us. We've had nice 20-degree days, but if it continuously goes quite low during night times, cold damage is to be expected. Now also it's been quite wet as well, and cold and wet is always a deadly combination, so I've seen quite a lot of fungal issues with my plants. Well, fungal issues as in the plants are just dropping leaves and petioles as a result of the cold and wet conditions. Now winter isn't over yet, there's still 1 more month to come. While it should technically warm up a little bit, it's definitely warming up during the day. There's still some single-digit nights to be expected. So this might not be it. Some more plants might fall casualty to Sydney's winter, but I'm having a hard time looking at some of my dead plants out here. So in today's video I actually also want to, chop some of them back. Now that I get to chop them back and they don't really have many leaves to take up space anymore, I actually want to see if I can maybe fit a couple more plants up in my rescue section indoors so that I can at least prevent future damage. Am I a little late on that? Yes. Should I have considered these things at the beginning of winter and maybe saved some of these plants from dying in the first place? Also yes. Did I expect it to be that bad? Absolutely not. Actually, I feel like last year my plants did better. I do think this year is a little bit colder, and from some of the comments I had under my last video as well, is that I think other people in New South Wales are experiencing similar issues. As in this year is kind of a little bit cooler than expected, and some of the plants that have always been outside seem to be struggling a little more. But in the grand scheme of things, there's still a lot of plants that are actually doing quite well out here. So we're going to look at those as well. But I specifically want to focus on the plants that didn't make it. So hopefully by me sharing which plants survived out here, which plants did not survive out here, I will prevent some of you from making the same mistakes. Let's start off with the real obvious two. So over here we've got my, well, it's a stem at this stage. This is my Atabapuense. Happy days. It lost all of its leaves. I'll put in a video over here. These leaves were going so black and brown and whatnot. Yeah, it was not good. So basically I have no more plant on this extension, so I can take the extension off and reuse it next spring. Where are you stuck right now? Also, all of the stem was very soft, so I cut it back to here. That doesn't sound or feel like rot, but to be honest, I'm unsure if this can recover. I don't know. In hindsight, I should have probably put this plant inside for winter, but it is such a big plant with such a big spread. I honestly wouldn't have had room for this plant inside. Now that it has no more leaves, I have room for it inside. So I'm actually going to put this upstairs, I reckon, into my little storage area, which, if my timeline works out, you should have seen a video on my little rescue section upstairs this week or last week or recently. So I'll put this upstairs. I won't be able to provide it with a whole lot of light up there, but I think at this stage I just wanted to not rot further. Alrighty, and this is my micans, and I already chopped a lot of vines off here because it dropped all of its leaves, but the vines were still connected to the fence. So This plant has also gone wild, up and down many times, so I don't really know if all of these pieces of stem are actually connected to the pole or not. I think I will just chop anything like that off that kind of sticks out. And obviously I have a lot of petioles on here as well. Now, this one actually doesn't take up much space. I should have taken this one inside for sure, so that it would have survived winter, because I would have had space for it. The reason I didn't take this inside over winter is because it actually had rooted into the fence. Now obviously all of those leaves also died, so I then chopped off all of the vines that were attaching it to the fence so I can now move it. But yeah, so basically now in hindsight it was silly that I tried to save the parts that are attached to the fence, because instead of saving the parts that are attached to the fence, I lost the whole plant. I have no idea what's going on over here and whether or not this plant will be able to recover from its... I don't even know what this is, but oh my god, I also don't know really what strategy I should be following here. Some stems are not even, most of the stems aren't even really attached into the pole in the first place, because it's just grown up and down. They didn't need to attach to the pole. But I'm hoping that this plant maybe just reshoots in a bunch of spots and just grows again. So for now I'll just chop off anything that's not attached to the pole, but it's not looking promising at all. What I'll do with this, again it doesn't take up any space, I'll pop it upstairs, see how we go. I think over time I'll also see if some of the stems stay alive or if they all just shrivel up. But to be honest, I'm not feeling very confident about this one. Anyway, lesson learned. Now some of the leaves down here are going a little yellowish, yeah, but again that's not really something I'm super concerned about. Yeah, I don't have the need to really chop off any of those. I think they will eventually deteriorate themselves. But the top over here is still looking good. So I think overall it's not having a bad time coping with the with the cold. Alrighty, over here the variegated epipremnum. Also can't see any yellowing, so let's leave it. The Pinati patita is definitely showing a little bit of damage over here on these leaves. And some of the older leaves over here are also going very yellow. Oh, well, it doesn't have many older leaves left. I would kind of like to take this plant inside, I think. Specifically, what I could do is I could chop it, because really I just want to keep this top half. But not today. But that is maybe something I will consider over the next couple of days, depending on how much time I've got. The Cebu Blue, this Epipremnum pinnatum over here, still doing brilliantly, so can't complain. My Billy has dropped all of its leaves. It is just a rotten little stem over here, so this will not come back. And look, this is my second time doing that with the Billy. It already died last year and I thought, it was just too cold and wet, let me try and keep it drier. So I had it under a covered area. So it's not necessarily the wet, I think it was just the cold. But well, now I have confirmation it's definitely not a candidate to survive outside in Sydney's winter. Can you see the baby? He's sitting somewhere there behind the tree. Still Tibicana doing well. This is another Heliconia. It is not doing the best. It definitely did okay in the last catch up and then went downhill really quickly. Now with Heliconias, I was kind of expecting them to drop the leaves. My goal here is not to keep the leaves alive. I think my goal is to just keep the plant alive so that it can come back. So I just don't want it to rot. So I don't water this apart from just the rain that it's being watered by anyway. And let me just trim off all of the ugliness, because I'm so sick of looking at ugly leaves when I look out. It makes me feel uneasy. I don't want to be in the garden at the moment because it's cold, but also because it's ugly. I like nice looking leaves. So these are two heliconias, the Hot Rio Night and the Yellow Dancer. Both do equally terribly, but the one you saw in the intro that we're going to look at in a sec did by far the worst, the casualty. And I don't know if that's maybe just the spot that it's in. I mean, I'm going to cut off all the ugly, and some of these will definitely, they will all deteriorate over winter, right? By the end of winter, none of the winter. Hey Bradley, what are you doing? Stay in here, yeah? By the end of winter, or by the beginning of spring, it will not have any of the winter leaves left, right? I'm just keeping a few so the plant can still photosynthesize a little bit, hopefully, because it is still nice and sunny during the day. Now the ones in Timmy's garden, Tim has the exact same ones. Tim has them in his garden bed, and they seem to be doing better. I don't know if Timmy's garden is warmer maybe. It's also the same exposure, less tree coverage. So maybe the heat helps it, but during nighttime when there's no sun, his garden would be as cold. So I think it is also something to do with it being planted in a pot rather than in the ground. I think in the ground should have a better tolerance. Yeah, that looks, I mean, it looks better because there's nothing left. I said I'm gonna keep some and then didn't. Huh? Anyway, it is what it is. Palm's looking good. And then I've got the same heliconia here that is in the ground, and it is doing slightly better actually. Like, look at these big leaves over here, they're still kind of somewhat okay. So yeah, I think that kind of confirms my theory about the ground one doing better. It should also do much better at this beginning of spring when it's time to come back, because it should have a bigger root system because it's not so limited by the pot. Over here, what was that? Fertiliser verde maybe? The stem is actually still firm, so not this one though, you can see over here, rot, but this stem up here is still firm, which is good. This is rot and rot. Okay, this is also very dry. I just have this hanging on the fence and kind of completely forgot about it. I don't water out here at the moment. I think I watered twice over winter. There was 1 week where it was very dry. So this would have not gotten watered at all. But this is now small enough, I'll put it up in my rescue section as well. I mean, I'm very doubtful anything will come from this. I also take off the growth point. It will abort it anyway. Let's hope for the best. The only good thing is, filming in winter out here, I don't have to worry about you guys overheating for once. Alright, I'm just chopping off a few yellow leaves over here, because this is kind of like the first plant I see when I look outside, and I'm just so sick of looking at yellow. I don't want yellow, I want green, yeah? Again, this one should be okay for the rest of winter. I don't think it's gonna deteriorate much further. They are all over Sydney outside and they seem to be surviving okay. Let me have a look in there. I'll bring you closer in a sec. Actually, you know what, in here it looks pretty good. I'll bring you closer, but nothing really of concern over here. Okay, very happy with this actually. I'm also very surprised at the performance of these crawling philodendron over here. Alrighty, now this has been hit very hard, and I don't know if it's maybe because it's kind of open towards here so it gets a little bit more wind, or if it's just the type. This one is the casualty heliconia, but I mean it is growing a new leaf over here. Doubt that that leaf will be pretty, but it's growing. But yeah, this needs to go. I see this brown ugly stuff flying around in the wind from my living room, and it just frustrates me. So out of sight, out of mind, right? See, now Now that I cut it back, I'm less reminded of my failures. Nah, but all jokes aside, yes, of course, I could have put it inside to protect it from the cool conditions so that it doesn't die back over winter. But come on, I mean, this is the 7th plant I'm now saying this about. Realistically, I cannot put all of these plants inside. And these are all plants I have chosen to be outside because I don't have enough room inside. And if they can't handle the outside conditions, then maybe they're just not my plant to grow, right? It is kind of just trial and error, survival of the fittest, and see what sticks. And well, if they didn't survive this season, then I won't replace them and do the same mistake again next season. But the ones that survived this season, I know I will be able to survive next season as well, or like next year, winter, right? So I'm basically just, through my own trial and error, find out which plants I can actually keep outside during Sydney's winter. This is only my 2nd winter of growing outside, and last winter I had more room available inside. This winter I'm more challenged with room inside, so more plants had to stay outside. And it's also the 1st winter with a greenhouse. Also, because I got this big garden last year, I bought quite a few plants last year, in all fairness, which, you know, I bought a lot hoping that they would survive, but I wasn't sure. Well, now I know. There were a bunch of alocasia over here. I already put them in the rescue section because they all said goodbye. But the rest is doing well over here, huh? Doesn't it? Right, this section is looking good. The Metaphyllum is doing well, to be expected. Heaps of those in Sydney as well outside, and they're all doing well. Bird of Paradise is actually even growing a new leaf over here. Whee! But again, lots of Bird of Paradise all over the streets of Sydney, and they're all doing well. Alocasia Regal Shields is actually the only alocasia that is out here and still not completely dormant. Healthy roots sticking out there. So I reckon I'll keep pushing my luck and keep her here. But we gotta look at this section behind it a little bit. Hello, here we are. This anthurium is not doing well. These leaves look terrible. So I'll just chop that back. This Kala lily is not doing well at all. Actually, it has a new... They should flower during the cooler season. I don't know why it's so challenged this year. Maybe not enough light. Could be not enough light. Okay, these alocasias are now also going kind of... I don't know if you can still see me. Am I still here? Hello. I'll just chop off anything that looks a bit floppy. And yeah, I don't use the irrigation in this garden bed anymore. Because there's no need for water at this stage. I mean, you can see over here, these leaves in themselves don't look super terrible. They were just a bit droopy. I don't think the plant fundamentally has any issues. Otherwise, the leaves would be a little more yellow. Just didn't like the droopy look. Righty, and welcome to the greenhouse. Let me show you what hasn't survived. This one is one of the Bellicosums. Just dropped all of the leaves. This was a Burlamax Fantasy, completely soggy, so no, this will not survive. If you watched the video of my rescue section, you also noticed that the radicans hasn't survived. There's just dead radican leaves on the floor everywhere. I have no idea what this is. This is just an empty pot of soil, so assuming this has not survived. Variegated Burlamax. Burlamax aurea now, huh? I just chopped it back, see if something happens with this or not, but yeah, I don't know. Actually, by the way, the maidenhair fern is doing exceptionally well. It likes the cooler temperatures actually, so I'm happy with that. My little Veracosum that I put out here is not doing well. It's doing worse than the one that I put upstairs, but I want to stay true to the experiment, so I'll keep it here. Autumn Queen is showing 2 growth points, one here, but these leaves definitely show a little bit of cold damage. I'm just going to chop these 2 leaves because they're taking up too much space, and now that it's small and compact, I will actually put this upstairs in my rescue section. Now in hindsight it's so dumb. If I would have known that these plants have such a hard time, I could have done exactly that at the beginning of winter and not let it deteriorate first and then just, you know, sacrifice those 2 leaves and let it reshoot up there. But as I said, I don't know all of these things. It's still a learning curve for me as well. Then we've got a bunch of variegated monsteras here. They all are still alive. They're not showing any growth, but they are alive. And get a load of this. My cuprea out here is actually doing quite well. Look at how, like, you know, sometimes cupreas get a little droopy and so on. This one is doing the total opposite. It's doing so well. I'm thinking, should I give it more light? I think I'll pop it in this corner. Oh, talking about this corner, this is my Jacqueline. Also completely rotted, to be expected. I also popped this upstairs in my rescue section. Here another variegated monstera. I mean, the white parts are definitely suffering, but overall it's okay. I just wanted to survive and then it will reshoot nicely in spring. That was not a smart move. I had some, what is this one, can't remember what it's called, but that has completely rotten. Rot. Probably not a good idea to do water propagation in the middle of winter, because obviously water would get so cold. That has been in that jar for over a year without me even ever changing the water. So clearly I don't care for this plant too much. Clearly I don't care. Alrighty, what have we got here? The hanging ones look fine. Actually, this one has a flower. 2 flowers. Oh, it's doing well. So we'll keep it like that. I might just want to hang it over here so it's out of the way a little bit and fills this spot over here. This one is a good example of what happened to quite a few of my plants. So quite a few of my plants just dropped all of their leaves. So the leaves just snapped off the petiole like that, and then eventually the petiole will snap off the stem. The stem actually still feels fairly firm, but clearly it was too cold and wet for the leaves. So I will just snap them all off, because who cares about the stems. And now that it's a bit smaller, it can also go upstairs. That one is rotten. Now this plant has already done exactly this last year, so that was actually to be expected. But to be fair, I don't like this Philodendron ernestii enough for it to take up a space inside. And before winter it had a lot of leaves and it would have taken up a lot of space inside. So it wasn't really an option. Last year all of the leaves died, but the stem was okay. And then it just came back. So, you know, I was thinking, why not replicate last year? I don't mind a seasonal plant. I like the aspect of growing and seeing growth, so I don't mind. Oh, I forgot this one. What is this? I don't remember. Okay, this one is my Burlemarx Fantasy. Did terribly. Lost all of its, you can see it's only got the petioles and the stems left. All of the leaves just dropped within a couple of days. And to be honest, I don't think this is recoverable. Yeah, this is all rot. I'm hoping that the rot doesn't spread further. But to be honest, I don't really know how this plant could possibly come back to life. I think that's it for this plant, but what I'll do in spring is I'll assess it again when it's a bit warmer, and then I'll just at the very least reuse the moss poles, right, and just pop something new on there instead. Over here we've got my, what is this one, Saponara. Some of these leaves are going a bit yellow, brown, whatsoever, but overall, I mean, it is a monstera, and I think monsteras should be a little more resilient, but I mean, that's also a very generalization. It's not dead yet, so I'm okay with that. My tenue, yeah, okay, I think you just saw that, maybe. Also just started dropping leaves from the patio rot at the top for sure. I cut that off, let it reshoot. This can come into the rescue section with me as well. Gloriosum, completely rotted. Look at this rot. I mean, with crawlers it's a bit harder because they're also in a more water retentive mix, so the likeliness of them being exposed to rot is a little higher in my opinion. But I'm surprised how well the ones in the garden beds did. So anyway, I'll leave it here and see if something wants to reshoot during summer or spring, summer or not. Plaumania over here is doing, can we see this? Yeah, you can see it. It's doing quite well. I mean, the leaves are getting a little yellowish, like not the healthiest looking ones, but it looks firm and perky, not droopy or anything like that. So I'm pretty happy with that. What do we got here? The Majestic over here is doing well. I've got a little pole of Varicosum over here that's doing nothing, but that's also okay. My variegated Syngonium over here is doing quite well actually, just one ugly leaf, but that's okay. Diametrium medium is just looking a little dehydrated. I should probably give this a little bit more water. But again, I'm trying to avoid wet and cold, so. But it's alive, no? So let's not fix what's not broken. I'll put that back. Ugh, this greenhouse is also filthy. I can't wait to clean that out a little bit. Deep clean in spring. This is my Vernery, and you can also see some of these stems have just rotted away. Now this is not really a plant. It's a plant I was gifted, and of course I'm always grateful when somebody gifts me a plant, but it's not a plant I would have ever chosen to grow. So that's also not a plant that gets to take up a prime spot. It's one of these plants, like if you thrive in the conditions that I've got available for you, then you're allowed to stay. But if you're creating too much work for me, then I also don't mind if you are no longer alive. Philodendron gigas. It was a little experiment. I was expecting velvets to not do too well out here, but yeah, it did actually worse than expected. See again, it's just rot, how easily the leaves come off the petiole snaps off the stem, and then next step would be the stem slowly rotting away. I think it starts looking unhealthy from here onwards. This is very unhealthy. Nope, this is definitely rot. Yeah. Look, I have a really healthy big one inside, so this is gonna go back, and probably in spring nothing will happen, and then I'll probably completely get rid of it. Global green pothos is doing nothing. Look, there's one at the back, cute. It's doing nothing, but it's also not dead. I mean, it's kind of lush. It's not bad. It's actually in a position where, you know, once spring hits, this could be doing really well. Another variegated Monstera, also doing well, yeah. I mean, Monstera deliciosa are also all over Sydney, and they're doing really well outside. The variegated version obviously is a little bit more challenged because of the variegation. Brandthianum actually did so well this season out here. I hope I'm not speaking too early. I hope it's going to make it through the next month as well, and maybe Jan in a month's time is going to regret this decision I'm about to make, but I think I'm just going to keep it here. This is on the side that gets a little bit more sun as well, so that might help. And then over here we've got the Corsinianum. And this is actually a winter leaf, and it's growing really nice. Really like this. And it's growing where I cutter feel. Next one coming here. Oh my god, this plant. I reckon I just have to chop this off. All of this bottom part looks pretty dead. It needs a repot urgently. That's what it really needs. But I'm just gonna chop the end bits in an attempt to make this plant reshoot from the base so that it's a little bit lusher, and then when I repot it, there's just more shoots. Rhipsalis over here is doing very well. Cannot complain at all. My two carnivorous plants, one here, it's actually growing nice leaves. Oh shit, it's growing nice leaves, but the pitches are going a bit moldy or brown. But that's also just with age, I believe. Like, they have a limited time lifespan, right? They can't stay beautiful forever. And the second one, it's doing the same. I mean, look at this. It's growing like crazy. I can't really, can I move it? I mean, look at this. It's healthy and it's a large plant and it's doing well. You know what? I'm doing nothing with it. I'll just keep it as it is. That looks kind of stunning. But the pitches are definitely deteriorating, but that's okay. Again, I'm just waiting for this to survive winter and then hopefully grow new pitches in spring. But it has also given me a new shoot from up here, 2 new shoots from up here. So it grows at its growth point at the moment, plus 2 new shoots. So will be even lusher next year. I can't wait. It's actually a very nice plant. I love this plant. Let's get out of here. Alrighty, quite successful in chopping off a lot of ugliness. That's good. So let me take you on a little tour. This is the section of plants that I'll put upstairs now, and hopefully they'll be less dead by spring. Then I've got my wall of aeroids that now has this big gap over here where the 2 plants died. But I'm not going to move anything around for now. Let's just keep everything where it is, and then in spring I'll rearrange a little bit anyway. The heliconias looking a little bit empty, but I'd rather look at empty than dead. Over here it's kind of going well. The palm still looks fine. Surprisingly, I mean, I'll chop this back when I repot it at the beginning of spring. Banana, nothing to say about the banana. My orchid is doing well. Unfortunately no flowers, but see how we go. And then this section is actually doing really well. I mean, the Stuttgart is challenged, but again, I was expecting it to be completely dormant by now. The Licuala over there is actually doing really well. The crawlers down here, I think, are doing exceptionally well and very unexpected. My Esculenta is actually growing a brand new leaf, which is also a bit unexpected. And my Morantas are doing better this year than they did last year. They were over the outside last year, but they did terribly. This year they're doing better. There's even some new growth here. In this section we are doing okay. There's a new leaf coming here. And most of the alocasias are just dormant, and I'm just waiting for... Actually, the Cupria is doing well out here as well. Who would have thought? The greenhouse is looking a little bare. It's a little lusher on the left. That gets a little bit more light. Quite bare on the right. The shelf specifically is bare because that used to have all of my anthuriums on them. So actually getting a bit of light there now. I mean, the light changes every day. So who knows? But yeah. See how we go. Yeah, I'll maybe jig them around a little bit, but probably no urgency for now. You know what? I'm just going to close this and let the sun heat it up in there a little bit. Another sad looking heliconia, but they can grow so fast. So I'm hoping that just once spring hits and I give them a nice repot, nice new mix of soil, that it will just escalate really quickly. Bromeliads are doing amazing, and again I'm working on an extra video on this one. And yeah, the ZZ is doing okay actually, can't complain. Bismarck palm is doing okay as well, so also all good. Yeah, so overall not terrible. But yeah, we're not done yet. 2/3 into winter and it's not looking too promising, but the conditions won't get worse, but they won't necessarily get better straight away. So see how we go. I'm hoping that most of the plants that have coped with it so far will be able to cope with it for another month and you know, build resilience. Did I learn something from it? For sure. I definitely now know which plants aren't really happy living out here, and hopefully that helps future Jan make better decisions, and hopefully that helps you as well. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is a learning curve. You're always smarter in hindsight. I reckon I could have definitely prevented a few of these plants from dying by just taking them upstairs a little bit earlier, but I was a little bit persistent. I just kind of like, no, don't worry, they'll be fine. Let them fight for their survival. It's always easy to say it in the moment, and then when you when you see them suffering out there, you're like, ah, damn it. But it is what it is. We're just looking after plants at the end of the day. You know, I try to not take this too seriously and still see it lightheartedly, but it's definitely not the nicest feeling in the world to see some of these plants deteriorate, especially the ones that have been with me for a long time, like the Atabapuense, for example, was one of my first plants, but I can always get a new one, you know. It's about the journey, not the end result. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your favorite winter emoji in the comment section if you made it this far into the video. And I can't wait to show you my garden in spring and summer again. I absolutely enjoy spending time over here, and at this stage I'm not really utilizing this space. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.